Hi, I'm Adam, and I like to make things to play games with. Board games, miniature games, tabletop RPGs, and games with action figures. And
Heresy!
And that's what we're going to be committing today. I haven't played Warhammer 40k in years. That's from the last box I bought, and I didn't play that version. But I have been invited to join something very special indeed. A friend of mine, Templar's Crusade and King Fluff are running a Horus Heresy Campaign in 1/18th scale. So I'm going to see if I can go about making some of this 3rd edition plastic terrain by Games Workshop for my 1/18th scale Joy Toy Marines. I sketched out some ideas loosely based on the original terrain. Not an exact copy, but close enough to bring feelings of nostalgia for the battlefields I fought across almost 25 years ago.
Gather materials for the War Master.
I decided to use EVA Foam once again. It's cheap, it's light, and I think this is going to be quite a large build. I marked out the design with a black Sharpie and then freehanded some of the other elements. Don't look at the bits I got wrong, I had to draw them again. Measuring's really hard. Once the majority of the design was down, I cut out the blank spaces with a sharp hobby knife. As I was making a classic corner ruin, I didn't need to finish off the right hand side of this completely. The rear side of the maps I use has this texture, so I doubled up. It doesn't align perfectly, but it's close enough. To give the fascia some three-dimensionality, I cut some strips from 1mm craft foam and stuck them to the build with hot glue. The trick here is to layer to give the impression of a stonemason's mullions. I'm pressing into the foam with the end of a biro and adding a variety of details across the bottom of the piece. The joins are quite noticeable, so I use some hot glue to minimise the line. It wouldn't be 90s corner terrain without battle damage. And this big biro is perfect for making bullet holes, before adding blast details with a scalpel. The Horus Heresy Campaign I'm joining has a modified custom rule system, enabling you to field individual Marines or special characters. It's the Horus Heresy we know and love, only bigger. I'll drop a link to the Facebook group below, and you can follow us on Instagram for more details. And to watch the galaxy burn. If you apply heat to cuts in EVA foam, they open up, which adds a superb level of detail to the base level, which emphasises the illusion of three-dimensionality once you start layering on top of it. I built up layers around the window as I was planning for this to be a focal point of the build. I hid some of the seams and then carried on with the battle damage. I marked out a blast hole with a black Sharpie and cut into it with a knife. Doing the same on the flip side. and made a variety of smaller blast marks in exactly the same way. There's my trusty .75 biro again. Caulk, with an L because I'm from England, is really useful for filling these edges in. And you can stipple it for a textured finish. For the octagonal corner piece, I bevel cut strips of foam. These were a challenge to stick with hot glue, so I used contact adhesive on the final piece. I added cross bracing for stability, and then modelled, battle damaged, filled, and textured the entire piece. I added a frame for a stained glass window and touched up the battle damage. So I think it's time for Mod Podge, black craft paint and an old brush. Toilet humour. This is my first time using Mod Podge. I honestly wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm quite impressed. I applied multiple liberal coats to both sides of each of the fascias, using a rotating or stippling motion to try and minimise direction of the brush strokes. The Mod Podge and the acrylic craft paint are both flexible, which is useful because unlike XPS foam, EVA foam is flexible itself. I left the octagonal corner piece unpainted so I could glue the fascias into place. And filled in the unpainted sections afterwards. I used water-based emulsion, house paint, to apply a liberal dry brush over the entire model. It's 1998 after all. Black base coat, grey dry brush. And I followed up with a lighter dry brush and pure white over the entire thing. I forgot to film myself adding the rebar, so here's one I made earlier. Made a hole in the foam with a bradawl. I cut leftover pieces of plastic sprue and glued them into place. I painted the exposed rebar with some Games Workshop lead belcher and applied a liberal homemade wash made from black ink, matte medium, ionised water, floor polish and some rinse aid. I applied this wash anywhere I thought there should be a tonal difference in the stonework. I wanted some rust on the exposed rebar, so dirty down rust is perfect for this. Smack the like button, hit subscribe and please share with anyone who you think will enjoy. It's water-based but can be reactivated, similar to using oils, without the need for adequate ventilation and or the risk of bursting into flames. I wiped the excess off with a damp cloth and reapplied for a multi-layered effect. I need to give credit to James Cully over at Rebel Base Builds for the inspiration to use weathering powders. I was inspired by his builds and picked up a set of Vallejo pigment powders. I applied them neat with a stiff brush anywhere I thought there should be weathering on the stonework. They're great for adding subtle coloration that would be more difficult to achieve with wet pigments. Although I did wet stipple some moss and algae stains. I blacked in the blast marks. And use weathering powders to add charring. I Google searched for some suitable posters. These are from Joachim Eriksson, who provided concept art for Dark Tide. I'll drop a link to where you can find his work below. I touched up the edges of the posters with a black Sharpie. And applied them with PVA glue. And sealed them with PVA glue to protect them. Final shade to tie in a turned down corner. Some stippled charring. And an epic stained glass window printed on acetate from an image by Juan Pelaez. And I think we're done. Because it does not matter how the galaxy burns, only that it does. Where am I going to put this? It's gigantic.
Heresy!